Hi everyone, have you ever looked out across the River Thames and wondered what secrets are hidden in its murky depths and what intriguing artefacts are yet to be found? It's something that crosses my mind when I'm here by the river like today. Well, we can only imagine the objects yet to be found in the future, but we can certainly discover hundreds of fascinating artefacts found by mudlarks over the years. And how is this? Well, last month I visited London Museum's exhibition Secrets of the Thames, and I was lucky enough to speak to the leading curator, Kate Sumnall. And the great thing is, I filmed the whole thing, and I thought you may like to experience it for yourselves. And the other good news is that I've got 2 tickets to give away for the exhibition, which ends in March of 2026. So please put in the comments below something that you really enjoyed about this video, followed by hashtag Secrets of the Thames. And in a couple of weeks, we will find out who is the lucky winner of those 2 tickets. Okay, I hope you enjoy. Hi everyone, so I'm here today with Kate Somnall, who is leading curator for Secrets of the Thames. So this is hugely exciting. It's an opportunity for you to take a look at the exhibition. So can I just ask you, what is it that inspired you to create Secrets of the Thames?
Oh gosh, that's a really great question. I've been working with the mudlarks for almost 20 years, recording all the finds, and I just love that sense of discovery and the connection with the past that always comes. And of course, I love you lot. I think you're absolutely brilliant and so interesting to talk to. And then when it became possible to do this exhibition, it was right, how can I weave all of those things together, of that sense of discovery and finding things and what stories are held within these objects that are sometimes tiny or fragments of things. And then you lot, how can I weave you into this as well? Make sure your voices are heard, your expertise is showcased, all of that.
So many of these objects were lost by just the everyday person. Not necessarily kings and queens.
Absolutely, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there when you say that is the real joy of these objects, is that they give glimpses into normal people's lives, people like you and me. History books is dominated by kings and queens and policies and wars and, you know, big picture stuff, but really what was it like to live in London? And that's what these objects can tell us. From, you know, some of the rings, so many rings come up in the river, as you're really familiar with, that are, you know, there's often a really practical explanation of hands get very cold in winter. If you're pulling off a glove, the ring slips off so easily, and so they may get lost like that. But then I also like the more imaginative idea of exploring history, of, well, what other explanations could there be? Lovers' arguments, grief, and is that the moment that a ring is pulled off in an act of anger or grief that then gets cast into the river as a place of remembrance, of grieving, of letting go and moving on with your life. And so in this exhibition, we drew on some of the rings that we've got within the collection that all have got that love theme that sort of links them. They are such a personal item. They'd be worn on hands. They've often got initials, or they have little mottos such as the lovely 1450 ring that's over there, that's for love I am given. And just think about that moment of when it was given. Yeah,
I know, and many of my viewers will know that finding a posy ring or something like that is really something I would love to do. So the next best thing is perhaps to go and see one that's already been found by another mudlark.
Absolutely.
Okay, actually, whilst we're standing here, I've noticed this little object here, a sundial, I think.
That is one of my favourites, actually. It was found in 2 halves, 8 years apart.
No way.
So the first half was found on the stretch of the foreshore by one mudlark, and then about 8 years later, from the same bit of the foreshore, it had gradually worked its way up to the surface in the mud, and a second mudlark found it. And it was only in the recording of it that we then realised that both halves actually fitted together beautifully. And it just goes to show that actually in the river, with all the change that's happened over the last 400-500 years, things can stay where they were dropped, where they were lost. And it's just remarkable. It would have fitted into someone's pocket. It's called a pocket sundial. It's made from ivory, and it would have been a way of telling the time. A tiny string connected the top half to the bottom half, and it's the shadow of that. As the sun hits that, it creates a shadow which lets you read the hour. It's amazing. So I just told you about how we've got the gold rings, and I mentioned that we've got one that says "For love I'm given," and it's right here. It's the one with a pink stone, a pink spinel that is set within this gold band with the inscription going around the outside, and it's actually written in French. We also have one at the back which is so tiny, and it's thought to be a child's ring. Again, it is linked with love. It's a betrothal ring, and it dates back to the 1400s. So yes, children of the wealthy, of the influential, would often be used as part of arrangements which were about building relationships, and it was almost a political arrangement or a business arrangement rather than one of love. The children would be betrothed from quite a young age.
Kate, I can't ignore this phallus here behind us in the case. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Absolutely. I think it's very much a tourist souvenir that has come from perhaps around the China area. It is a green stone. It isn't jade, but it is painted to look like jade. And yes, you're right, it's a ginormous phallus, but with a water buffalo at the end. And I think it's all linked with fertility and life and death, the same way as the rings and the memento mori. It kind of carries on. But that then got us thinking about how the symbolism of phalli have come through time, and we plot that in that case. So we've got examples of Roman, medieval, post-medieval. So we've got a tiny child's ring here, absolutely tiny, made from gold with a phallus on it. And it's there to protect the child from the evil eye. And we've got things that would have been worn by soldiers as well, again for protection. And then in the medieval times, there is humour that's coming into it as well, and a bawdy sense of humour. And we've got this dagger here where the handle is being shaped to look like something very familiar, and it would be worn in such a suggestive way, positioned right in front of the body as well.
Yeah, very eye-opening, isn't it? So yeah, there's just a bit of everything in this exhibition. There really is, isn't there? So whilst we're here, obviously I want to show you my little shoe, which is in the exhibition. It's just here, this tiny little Victorian child shoe. And you may remember, if you watch my videos on a regular basis, that my friend Monica, another amazing mudlark, actually stitched it together, and there's 4 shoes here.
I love the shoes. The leatherwork is amazing of how it emerges from the mud, so well preserved. It's still flexible, and after some careful care that dries it out so that they last going forward, you can often see sort of like the marks of the feet.
Yeah, it's incredible,
where they've
isn't it?
Sort of like where the leather has shaped itself to the foot, and just again, it's that personal connection between someone wore this and then how it ended up in the river as well.
Imagine the people who used to wear these shoes. They would never have dreamt that 100 years later some of their little shoes would be featured on display in the limelight in a museum like London Museum. I just think that's quite magical, isn't it?
Exactly, and thanks to the river protecting them, meaning that they haven't rotted away.
Yes, it's that anaerobic mud. The mud in the Thames has no oxygen in it, so all these things, they get lost or dropped in there, and they're just so well preserved, aren't they?
Exactly, yeah. By sealing out the oxygen, it just means that the decomposition process doesn't start.
Another thing, actually I've just noticed them over there, the wig curlers. It's funny because yesterday I was watching Marie Antoinette on TV and all these wigs. That's another thing that so many people used to use, and somehow or other lots of them ended up in the Thames.
Yeah, and what's also nice is that through the Thames we've been able to plot back the history of wig curlers as well. And you'll notice if you look closely that the very first item in that little stack of wig curlers was not intended to be a wig curler. It's actually a broken length of pipe stem,
Right, okay.
which was, along with twigs, was some of the first things used to try and curl hair as people went, fashion for curly hair, how can I make my hair curl, what have I got to hand, what can I use? And so by using pipe stems, then started the, well, hang on, could the pipe makers make something slightly chunkier that would work better? And so then we've got one of the earliest clay wig curlers, which has got 2 holes within it and a cylindrical shape. And from there, you know, as they then problem solve and they refine the shape, then they get the really distinctive hourglass shape that we all know about and that we see so many of them down on the river. And that's kind of the link between, they're made from the same material as the tobacco pipe stems and often in the same places. The same makers were making both tobacco pipes and wig curlers. So I've brought you over here because I really wanted to show you this memento mori bead. It was found by Caroline, another mudlark, and she was just saying that the day she found it, the bead was face up to her, but not the side of the beautiful woman, it was the side of the skull that was facing up at her. And it was just such a remarkable, unexpected thing that you see. And it's just a lovely, so well made bone bead that would have sat on a set of rosary beads for saying your prayers, but it was also a reminder that life and death are interwoven and death is inevitable, and so you best say your prayers to make sure that you get into heaven and that your afterlife is everything you hope it to be. Rosary beads are very much a part of everyday life. Many, many people would have carried them around with them. So it wasn't just at prayer time that they were used, that often you'd have them suspended from a belt. And if you're a fidgeter like me, you may well have just been running it through your hands when perhaps the string broke as you're waiting for a ferry and you lost speed.
Look, I've got to ask you about the teeth, obviously, because they're staring at us like that.
They are distracting. Oh, I love this set of false teeth. They were in our collection, and so when pulling this exhibition together, I went through all of our drawers of things, and you know, the surprises that met me as you open up a drawer, open up a box, and go, okay, a set of false teeth. We have to have these. They date back to the 1700s, so it's remarkable how early they are. They are real human teeth that are set into a hand-carved ivory plate, and the teeth are held in place with gold pins. And it very much would have been made by a jeweller, bespoke for somebody's mouth. So they're not a standard thing that you just go and pick up a set off the shelf. It would have been designed for someone. And if we look closely at them, there's wear to the teeth and also to the ivory as well, which shows that they were used. They were used for eating, which is rare for this time. Often the false teeth at this time were just for appearances and to eat. You take them out, and I have no idea what you do with them. Do you put them on the table next to you? Gruesome. But yes, these were kept in, these were worn, and the remarkable thing is we've got both the top set and the bottom set, so they were found together.
And is that a false eye? Is that actually a false eye that somebody would have worn?
It is.
Is that old as well?
It dates back to the 1930s, we think. It is made from glass, and it is hand painted and coloured so that it would match the iris of the other eye for the wearer. And even the veins have been painted on for a realistic appearance. But yes, after the Great War, World War I, so many soldiers had lost one or both eyes that there was a real surge in the demand for prosthetic eyes, and so yes, they were made in large numbers here in London.
What strikes me is that we find so many things on the foreshore that are just from so many different eras, and everything all ends up together: Victorian, Roman, Iron Age, Georgian, modern. And also, talking of foreshore, I just want to draw your attention to this incredible recreated foreshore behind us. That is just a work of art, really. Did it take long to build that?
It did in some ways. It was so much fun to create it. It was
must have been
brilliant. We worked with such good set designers who mapped it out, but they worked really closely with us, and visits down to the foreshore and speaking to mudlarks to make sure we get the character of it right, sort of the shape of it. But we've also zoned it so it reflects different stretches of the foreshore, so it's got the different personalities. So this bit's really like the city, the bit in the middle is like out east round Wapping Way, with all the ship's timbers and the ship's nails and things like that.
Yeah.
And then Stuart and I went down and we picked up plastic rubbish
That's
off the
brilliant.
foreshore, leaving it a little bit cleaner than when we found it, and we used it to dress this, just to convey that jumbled nature
Yes.
of the modern rubbish of our lives alongside ancient rubbish.
Yes, it's such a good way of doing it. It really makes you feel like you're down on the Thames. So it's the next best thing to mudlarking. So that's another reason why you have to come and visit. And actually, talking of Roman artefacts, you've got some here, haven't you? Would it be possible to have a look at some
Absolutely,
of them?
let's go see.
So Kate, what is the story behind this huge piece of Roman, I'm assuming it's Roman,
It is.
Amphora?
Absolutely right, your ID is spot on. It was a remarkable day when we had the phone call at the museum from the Mudlarks saying, we have found something really large, we think it's a piece of amphora. We need some help, please. So yeah, we spoke to the PLA, we got the right permissions, and then we went down, waited for an incredibly low tide, because normally this bit is covered with quite a lot of water. And yes, we were able to lift this amphora up, and we've got a sizable lump of it. It is a Spanish amphora. It would have contained olive oil, and it comes from the region known as Baetica, and it's this really distinctive globular round
Yeah, it's
shape.
huge.
And you know, it's well, how did this end up in the river? Well, was it on some of the Roman ships that were bringing it to Londinium, bringing in the olive oil to meet that huge demand?
Yeah.
And did it slip? Did it fall? And all the olive oil was lost, and this was just left behind on the foreshore? That we don't know, but it's possible.
And it's got little engravings or little scratchings in it as well. Has somebody made their initials on it or something, do you think?
That's a really unusual thing about this one. So the olive oil amphora, the Spanish olive oil, always is in these amphora that are round, and many of them are stamped MAR, and whether that's the maker of the amphora or whether that's the owner of the olive production site, we don't know. But this one doesn't have the stamp, and instead we've got the initials MAR scratched onto the surface. Not once, but about 3 times, I think, where they've tried to do it. So they start just here, and it's upside down. So did they get told, you're doing it upside down, you're doing it wrong, do it the right way up? So yeah, they've tried a couple of times before finally getting it right there.
I've been fortunate enough to find a few Roman artefacts myself, and it always astounds me that it's still in such amazing condition. Imagine finding something from IKEA or something in 1,000 years' time. But anyway, what other Roman artefacts have you got here in the exhibition?
We've got lots that are from this place where the amphora was found, which really shows us that there is a lot of Roman activity that's happening there, and it's just coming to light gradually on the really low tides. And so it is thanks to the careful searching and recording by really skillful mudlarks who've got their eye in, because some of the fragments or some of the objects are so small, like the intaglios, which would have gone into finger rings, and they're gemstones or they are glass, and they've been carved with gods, goddesses, and sometimes animals like scorpions or cockerels, which represent the different gods as well. So we've got the gemstones, but we also have got 2 of the rings themselves with the gemstones still in place.
Have you got any hairpins as well?
Love a hairpin. Yes, this site is revealing so many hairpins, which I think gives a good insight into those elaborate Roman hairstyles which were really favoured, which depended on hairpins trying to hold it all up and hold it in place. So we've got them made from bone, where they are really common, but we've also got a couple that are made from jet.
And staying with the Roman theme, these have just caught my eye, these lovely statuettes. Can you tell us a bit about these, please?
Absolutely. We find quite a few statues of gods and goddesses that link to the Roman faith in rivers, and I think it speaks to the importance of rivers to the Romans and the connection with their beliefs and the gods and goddesses. So these statues may well have been in household shrines and then were maybe chosen to be thrown into the river, but what we have here are some that are made from a ceramic, a pipe clay, that are Venus figurines, and they were made in France and then brought over here. And we also have a bronze statue showing Mercury, and we've got the mother goddess as well, Dea Nutrix. So there's, you know, a a range of different gods and goddesses that are depicted. But what's really interesting is that the Romans tended to use bronze for the gods and pipe clay for the goddesses.
Oh, that's so interesting. And so were these, do you think, votive offerings, some of them? Do you think they were thrown in the river as offerings?
This is the nature of trying to do archaeology in the river, isn't it? We can't know. We know that there are a lot of figurines that have come from rivers all across Europe, but we also know that the Romans had a lot of things, a lot of belongings, a lot of stuff, and in one way they were incredibly wasteful, and the river is where they put their rubbish, and that holds true. But I think that because of the sheer number of them, that there is a votive element. And when we look at the other Roman things that we have coming up from here, and we know that river crossings were an important place for the Romans, and often as they would cross they would throw something into the river as well. So maybe.
So here's some more everyday items that have been lost in the Thames years and years ago. I absolutely love this hat. And is that part of a shoe?
This is part of a leather jerkin from the 1500s.
Wow.
So if you imagine a sort of waistcoat made from leather, and those slashes would have shown a really beautiful, colourful fabric kind of poking through. We've all seen Henry VIII in portraits wearing similar sorts of things.
And the hat, what's the story behind the hat?
So where the hat was found, it was found with a whole load of other Tudor artefacts. And so we thought, aha, it looks exactly like a Tudor cap. But this cap was hiding some secrets. And it's only as we got into the conservation lab and started to clean it up that we started to see a coloured pattern that was emerging just at the bottom. Tudor caps don't have that. And then a tiny little thread right at the top. It had a pom-pom originally, and then the final little clue, the final little secret it gave up was a scrap of elastic that was still trapped around it, and that buried all my hopes of it being very old and actually revealed that it's probably from like the 1930s, 40s, 50s, somewhere around that sort of era. But what is brilliant is it's been knitted and using exactly the same technique that the Tudor caps were knitted. So there is this thread of continuity with how things are made, the hands that make them, but also styles. It hasn't changed that much in form since Tudor caps.
Well, we are incredibly lucky today because in the museum today, visiting the exhibition as well, is Stuart Wyatt. And Stuart is very important. He's our finds liaison officer, and all of us mudlarks report our finds to Stuart. And there is this brilliant sort of mock-up of Stuart's office here showing exactly what he does. Stuart, can you just explain a little bit about what you do and explain this setup here in the exhibition?
Yes, well, Kate wanted to, the curator Kate wanted to emphasise the work of Portland Antiquities scheme in recording objects from the foreshore. And so this is kind of my desk area, which sits in the bowels of the museum. And as you can see, it's quite messy and not like the curated spaces of the mudlarks, which you have on the other side of this room. So you'll see like my books and all the stacks of objects in the cupboard and my photographic setup, and a little bit of a nod to the history of all the other people that came before me, like Kate and like the other curators who dealt with the mudlarking communities and in recording their objects over the last 40 years. And so we really felt it was really important to highlight the input of all those people who are often like nameless outside of the museum community. So it's like that's what's here. And so one of the things we wanted to do was highlight objects which come up fairly regularly of the foreshore. So we have these unique objects which come up, and to have a case on my desk where we would rotate every month. We put a new object in the case. And this month we have Alessio's wrist guard from the 16th century. Kind of similar ones are found on the Mary Rose, and so we have part of one here, so it's on display with a little bit of information about wrist guards, and just kind of this is my daily job, is to look at these lovely objects and record them on Portland Antiquities scheme. We photograph it, we weigh and measure it, and we put a record onto the database, which is publicly accessible, and so for researchers, people can look it up. And what we do is we basically record all the information about it. I try and find a parallel for it, and so we are adding to the archaeological data sets for this country, and so there's over 1 million objects now on the Portable Antiquities Scheme, and I think we're about 13,000 just from London alone. So you know, it's a really good data set of objects from ordinary individuals. So a lot of these aren't special objects, they're everyday objects which often get overlooked historically, archaeologically, and now with the more modern times we're starting to look at ordinary people's lives, and so this is a really good data set for ordinary people, you know, the things that everybody has.
So this has got an interactive part as well, which is really good. So there's a whole selection of finds here on this tray, and when we turn them around they pop up on the screen and you can see how they've been recorded on the Portable Antiquities Scheme. This is a piece of shrapnel. I find quite a lot of that, and so there's all the information. So you take lots of photos of it,
yeah,
and then all the measurements, and there it is. So it's great because when we find something on the foreshore, we can always go and check on the database and see if there's something.
Yeah, you can find a parallel for it and find a similar, and it's a really good research tool for everybody because it's an open access database. You don't have to register or do anything or pay any money. It's literally there for everyone to use as a resource.
So we're in front of this cabinet here with this wonderful selection of weapons from yesteryear, and there's also a door with open on it, and I'm going to have to open it, obviously. Da, da, da. Oh wow, can you tell us about this?
Well, you know, when you've got an absolutely remarkable, such a long rapier, of course you're going to put it in a cupboard for that surprise moment. I absolutely love this. Of when I went through the database to see what had been found, to see what we had, I saw this record that Ian Smith, one of the mudlarks who's really still mudlarking today, but yeah, he found this in the 1980s.
Oh, wow.
And I just thought that when it said the dimensions, it was longer than a metre. I thought they'd got it wrong. There was a decimal point that was in the wrong place, something like that. They hadn't measured it right. And then when I went to the store cupboard and looked, it really was. It's almost as tall as me. It dates to the 1594, and it just speaks to that time when fencing was very fashionable. A lot of men would have carried a sword about their person, but this is one that would have been used in the art of fencing and sword fighting.
Okay.
And it is called by the Italians at the time as the Queen of Weapons. The Italians favoured rapiers, and there was rivalry between the Italian fencing masters and the London fencing masters, and fights would break out in the street. It was just an amazing time. And here we have this remarkable object that has survived so well in the Thames mud. Can you imagine finding it?
No, I really can't imagine how that must have felt to find something like that. It's extraordinary, isn't it? And it's still got some of the cord bits there, the material at the top.
Yeah, there's tiny traces of red velvet up there as well.
Oh my goodness. I wonder who held that many, many years ago. Really gets your imagination going, doesn't it? And then it's right next to, like very appropriately, next to these, well, some of these were weapons as well, I suppose, or at least Neolithic, Paleolithic tools.
Exactly, that stretch back 400,000 years. You know, that is the skill of working iron to make that sword, and then here we've got some of the earliest blades that were tools, and you're right, may well have been used as weapons as well. So everything from woodworking tools to blades to really remarkable knives that are shaped like this circular pattern. But I love flint. I think it's got a real beauty to it.
Now, one of my favourite kind of finds is something with a name on it that I can link back to a person or a place, and I often like to try and return items to owners, or at least descendants if I can trace them. And there's this really lovely story here which I saw last time I came to visit the exhibition. It's some medals that were stolen and then returned. Can you tell us about these?
So these medals were found by Mudlark and brought into Stuart for recording, and you're quite right, they've got the name on them. They've also got the dates, and they are medals that have been won as part of the Wimbledon Tennis Championships, and they were won by Peter Fleming. And so Stuart got in touch with Peter Fleming and discovered that he had had a burglary on his London flat, and these medals had been stolen a few years earlier. So we don't quite know how they ended up in the river, of whether the thief believed that because they had the name on them, they didn't, he wouldn't be able to sell them without trouble coming back on themselves, and so just got rid of them into the river, but then not knowing the mudlarks would find them and that we would be able to reunite them with Peter Fleming.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? How long ago did he win them?
They date from between 1978 and 2002, so they span a really long tennis career, and he had a brilliant tennis career. He was incredibly successful. He played doubles, often partnering with John McEnroe, and yes, he was incredibly successful. Yeah. He didn't think he would see these again.
Isn't that amazing? The Thames has all these secrets in it, and this is another secret, isn't it? This ball and chain.
Yes, exactly. Gosh. So it is one that was for the prisoner, and it's designed to hinder movement. So when you need to transport prisoners between sites, so between land and on board ships, then yes, you'd use a ball and chain. It has this horrible iron prong which faces into the other foot, which hinders movement, and then you have this chain and you have to carry the ball with you as well. When the mudlark found it, he found just the ball poking out of the mud, and so thought he'd found a cannonball. So he was carefully lifting it, and then the chain started to emerge from the mud as well, and that's when he realised he had something very different to a cannonball. And the remarkable thing is that it's still locked.
Gosh, I hope that the person wasn't actually attached to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I hope that that just went into the river just like that and not attached to a person. The point of it all, why I have them in here, it's not just because I love it, but that's why the Thames is tidal. It's why we can mudlark, it's why we can find all of these amazing things that we've just had a look at. But in this space, I wanted a feeling that speaks to the feeling that so many mudlarks talk to me about why it's important to them, about what it feels like to be down the river, what it feels like to be searching and just transported to another time, another place, and just, you've all said how modern worries fade away, and there's just such a peace of being down there, and it's such a special place. And so that's what I wanted to try and capture in this room.
Well, there's such an amazing selection of finds here, and in amongst this incredible recreated foreshore. So this is an exhibition that is so worth coming to visit. It's just very magical. It really sort of captures the whole essence of the joy of mudlarking. So thank you so much for taking the time to show us around. And how long is the exhibition on for?
It's running until the 1st of March 2026, so if you're able to, lots more chances for visits.
Yeah, so I would highly encourage you to come along. And just before we go though, can you just explain why you think mudlarking finds are so important?
Well, they are incredibly important to our understanding of history, but also they just are such a rare survival. Preserved in the Thames mud, there are things there that survive that wouldn't survive on other sites because they're waterlogged, away from oxygen. But also the river has been here for always, and the city has grown up around it. And so what we've got trapped in the mud are all these bits and pieces that tell the story of a city from the point of its beginning right up to present day, of how it's grown, how it's shaped, and the people that have made their lives here. And that is just absolutely remarkable.
So I'm going to go off now and have another look, and yeah, thanks again, Kate.
Brilliant, thank you for talking with me.
Hello again, I hope you enjoyed that, and don't forget to put down in the comments below your favourite mudlarking find from the exhibition, followed by #Secrets of the Thames, and you could be in with a chance to win a pair of tickets to the exhibition. Okay, take care, see you again soon, sending lots of love from here in London. Bye bye.